Hello, everyone. Shalom. Welcome. It's so great to have so many of you already connected. I can see the chat that is open next to me. If you don't believe me, I will show you the way you look on my chat. Look. Nope, it's not that one. It's this one here. There you are. Oh, that's all of you guys. Thank you so much for being here. And we have a great class prepared for you with a surprise that is going to be presented in a minute. He's laughing because he can see me, but you cannot see him. I will reveal everything what's going on in a minute. Trust me about that. And so let's see who is here. Let's go for the beginning, because I know that Shelly Chochinov, she was here before everybody else, even before I went live. Wishing everybody Chag Sameach, Dr. Debbie Pollack. Yeah, you're right, Debbie. It's going to be Shabbat Agadol, this coming Shabbat. And you know that according to the rabbis, there are two moments of the year where the rabbis used to rebuke their congregations. One is at the Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and the other one is the Shabbat before Passover. So, I don't know if you want to come to Shul this Saturday. No, just kidding. I'd never rebuke my congregation. I think you guys are great, so you're safe with me. Rocky Pollack, hello. How is the Chametz market today? It's great. I put it there. It's this year we have more people than ever selling the Chametz through us, which is great. Feigi Hecht, welcome. Judy Sharak, welcome. Leon Pinkovich, welcome, and Caroline Lewis Smith from Tampa, Florida. Hello. You're at the hospital? Oh no. Oh, all the blessings to you. Sorry to hear that. And okay, so let's continue with the class itself. Today, I'm going to sell the Chametz live in front of all of you. Every year, we are struggling actually to get witnesses. We need witnesses to sell the Chametz. Today, I have many witnesses. So I said, why don't we combine the two things? Selling the Chametz, having the Torah Chaim, so you will have the experience on how this looks like. Because yeah, I got lots of forms from many congregants, but basically by giving me the form, you are not really selling the Chametz. That's a power of attorney to allow me to sell your Chametz. Okay, that's what many people don't know. And then separately, I meet with somebody who is going to buy all the Chametz, which the last couple of years was Reverend Peter Fast from Bridges for Peace. Peter, I'm going to bring you right away, right here, so everybody can see you. Hello. Everybody say hello. Everybody say hello to Reverend Peter Fast. Yeah, we have a chat here going on, so basically I can see all the messages that people send our ways. So, Reverend Fast, before we go into the selling of the Chametz, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit of Bridges for Peace, which is a great organization, and we partner with Bridges for Peace all the time.
Totally. Well, hello, everyone. It is such an honor to be on this call and to be part of the selling of the Chametz. Rabbi Mass, I thank you. And I just want to say a few words. Bridges for Peace, we are internationally based in Jerusalem, Israel. We're around the world, and our mission statement is Christians supporting Israel and building relationships between Christians and Jews in Israel and around the world. So that's how basically the cause for our existence since 1976 is recognizing what has happened in the past, recognizing and valuing our mutual, not just interests, but the commonalities of faith and background, and that Christianity wasn't born in a vacuum. We have a Hebraic root, even with differences between us. We still have so much in common, which hasn't been the cause typically in history, where there's been a lot of strife and unfortunately persecution on behalf of Christians to the Jewish people. And so there's a whole movement going around the world today. I'm not attaching myself to anyone in particular. We are our own organization, but there is a movement of Christians who genuinely want to reach out with unconditional love and support to Jewish people and build a bridge. And so I like to see it as, in a way, a reconciliation but bringing our communities together in what we agree on, not what we disagree on or what separates us, but focusing on what we agree on, building community, relationship, respect, all of these things. And what we do is work to support the needy in Israel. We basically, we feed up to about just over 22,000 needy Israelis every month, distribute 60 tons of food. We work with Holocaust survivors. We work in schools in Jerusalem and Carmiel, Netanya. We work with all kinds of people. We repair homes, and we've been doing so since 1976. We've impacted everyone from the Knesset right down to the Orthodox community, the religious community, to the secular community, to mayors and municipalities, to professors, to principals. It's incredible the work that we've done. We've brought over 85,000 Olim to Israel. And then once they're there, if they need our support, we assist them as well. So about on an average base, every month we support over 1,000 newly arrived immigrants for a 1-year program. We have a Feed a Child program. We sponsor cities. And on the other side of what we do as an organization is we reach out and we educate the church. We're a faith Bible-believing ministry. And so faith in the Bible enters into a major aspect of our approach to the church, of looking at the roots, but also supporting and standing with modern-day Israel, standing against all forms of anti-Semitism, and drawing our communities with no strings attached, drawing our communities together. And we're still Christian, but we have chosen to enter into this relationship and mobilize in these ways with no strings attached. So it is just an honor to work with Rabbi Mass and others across the country. And thank you so much for having me here this day and giving me this platform to share.
Thank you, Reverend Fass, for that lovely introduction. And yeah, some people here in the chat said that they still remember you from the challah bake.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. So we are going to proceed now with the selling of the Chametz. And first I have one question, but you already said it there, because the most important thing is to know you are not Jewish.
I am not Jewish, correct. Perfect.
Because basically we cannot sell the Chametz to another Jew, because one of the things that Pesach is all about is that we Jews, we are not allowed to own any kind of Chametz. Okay, so before Pesach, there are 3 things that we do. Number 1, I would say we give away all the Chametz we can. But by the way, Chametz is all these leavened products or things containing grains that they have not been supervised by a rabbi. So if something containing any kind of grains have not been supervised by a rabbi, we cannot have it on Pesach. It's called Chametz. Okay, that includes so many things like crackers, bread, pasta, whiskey. Just as an example. Okay, so we can give it away before, right? Or we can eat it. Or we can destroy it, which, by the way, it's part of the preparation for Passover. The Chametz that we couldn't give away, we couldn't eat it, or we couldn't sell it, we destroy it before. So a big part of the preparation for Pesach is to sell as much Chametz as we can, and then to try to find a way at the end to buy it again. But we are not allowed to possess this Chametz. So we thank you that you are going to buy our Chametz. And as I read the documents that I use to sell the Chametz, I'm going to explain to you and to the people who are tuning in how this works. And I have to be very careful here because Judge Rocky Pollack is watching. So if there is any legality that he doesn't like, he's not shy, and he's going to say it there. So I'm going to read it for everybody. And again, this is something that most people don't have access to. They've never seen this before. And it's not just a thing. I say, here is your Chametz, give me back, right? And then let's see you after Pesach. That's not the way it works. This is a serious thing it's a long document. So please be patient, and I will read it for all of you. Okay, here we go. I, the undersigned Rabbi Anibal, have sold to Peter Fast, a non-Jew, from the hour listed below, all forms of chametz, leaven, or food mixed with leaven prohibited during Passover, and suspected chametz, whether my own or that of anyone who has authorized me to sell their chametz, as detailed in the Shtar Harsha'ah, power of attorney. And these are the documents that everybody was sending me the last couple of weeks, okay, which has been given to me. Now, this is whether food, specifically forms of grain and flours, baked goods, all baking ingredients, etc., or drink, specifically hard drinks like brandy, whiskey, cognac, and all varieties of liquor, and all forms of candy, chocolate, sweets, but also the chametz which adheres to utensils. So basically, this is what happened. When we cook on pots or pans, even if you wash it, we consider that it's still always a little bit of chametz that might be still there. We cannot see it, but it's there. So we don't use those pots and pans during Passover, but because they contain chametz, we sell them. But we cannot sell the pan itself, because then when we buy it again, we will have to take them to the mikvah to have a ritual immersion, etc. So it's too complicated. So the rabbis created a formula, and we are not selling you the entire pan. We are selling you the chametz that is in the pan, or in the pot. It's just fascinating. This the way the rabbis created this thing. So let's keep going here. Let's see what's going on. Okay, in containers of clothing, all animals, large and small cattle, horses, birds, and fowl, which feed on chametz. Because this is the other problem, because we have pets, right, at home, and the pets eat chametz. So we cannot have chametz. So how do we feed our pets? It's impossible. So what we do is we sell you the pets, but you are allowing us to keep them at home, and we are going to feed them with your chametz. So that's the way it works. Okay? And the chametz and chametz mixtures, which those who have authorized me have in partnership with a non-Jew, whether the chametz mentioned is truly their own, or that for which they are responsible. Even is responsible only for negligence, whether the responsibility is according to the Torah law or civil protocol, or by dint of lawlessness, whether the chametz is with them in the house, in the attic, the cellar, or in a factory or store, whether on dry land or waters, whether in wagons or railroads, or in ships or in airplanes. Because this is what happened. What if somebody bought something that is chametz on Amazon and it hasn't arrived yet? It's on transit, right? But it's theirs. So, but we cannot own it. I cannot get rid of it because I don't have it. I cannot eat it because I don't have it. So, until it arrives, or even if it arrives during Pesach, it's yours. So, even though we don't have physical possession, we paid for it. So, we have to put it in the contract that might happen, that somebody bought something that maybe they forgot, and it's in the mail, it's not physically with them. So, we sell it in advance. Okay, all such chametz as listed above, I have sold to the aforementioned buyer in a complete and absolute sale without retaining any rights whatsoever. As regards the price of the chametz as listed above, I came to an agreement with the aforementioned buyer that everything will be assessed by 3 experts in assessment according to current prices. And in accordance with the assessment, the aforementioned buyer is obligated to pay the price after measuring such chametz, and is normally measured, or weighing such chametz and is normally weighed. The assessments, measurements, and weighing will take place after the upcoming Pesach. Okay, may it come upon us with blessing. So basically, you don't really know, I don't really know how much all this chametz that I'm selling to you is worth. We don't know. So basically, all what you are pledging to me now is a down payment. And we are saying that after Pesach, we are going to sit down and to decide how much actually that is worth. As regards to the cost of the purchase, I will receive from the aforementioned buyer a total security of $2 Canadian, and I establish the remainder to be in a form of a loan with a date of maturity not to exceed 1 hour into the 23rd day of Nisan in the year 5781, corresponding to the 5th day of April in the year 2021, after the measure and weighting take place. Okay, so that's what we're saying, is that's after Pesach. And I declare unequivocally that I have rented the aforementioned buyer my house, located at, and I don't want to post my my address here in a public forum, but you will know exactly where my house is, okay? Because that's the other thing. One of the things that the rabbis decided is by renting you my house, I'm actually also renting you all the rooms of the people who gave me the power of attorney, all the rooms where they store the chametz. But symbolically, I have to rent you my house. It's in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. For him to store the utensils and movable goods, and it's as is the buyer's pleasure. That means the chametz is yours for the sum of $2 Canadian from the 13th day of Nisan in the year 5781, corresponding to 26th day of March, because this starts tomorrow. But because this is the funny thing, Pesach starts on Saturday night, okay, which is the 27th. But we cannot make a business transaction on Shabbat. So this year is weird. We have to start Pesach, at least the prohibition of the chametz, a day before. So that is also a warning for all my students, that all the Pesach restrictions start a day earlier. The only exception, and we have to do this orally because it's an amendment to the document, is that you allow them to eat chametz that is necessary to celebrate Shabbat. So basically, you cannot have any chametz in your house except what you're going to eat for the Shabbat meal on Friday night. Okay? So that's an exception. You're allowing them to have chametz on Friday night. And by dint of the possession of the property, the house, rented to the buyer, I transfer to the buyer the movable goods and mentioned above, and I have also rented to the buyer all of the places where the aforementioned chametz substances are for the sum of $2 Canadian per room. Okay? Let's see if we have any comments. Not comments. Okay, let's continue. The aforementioned buyer has the authority to do with the chametz whatever his pleasure. It's yours. It's yours. You can sell it, gift it, rent it freely, and also the buyer has the authority to take home the aforementioned immediately. But even if the chametz remains whatever it is now, from this time forth, all is within the responsibility of the buyer, and I am no longer responsible for it, including any unavoidable accidental damages. And the buyer has also agreed to accept the stipulation that if any loss of value occurs with the aforementioned chametz, the sellers will be considered reliable in their account of how the loss of value occurred. And I, for my end, agree that even if the buyer does not pay the entire amount agreed to, as regards the sale price of the chametz purchase, and for which I have made a loan to the buyer, nevertheless the purchase of the buyer remains valid. Okay, so no matter what, this document is going to be valid after you agree at the end. The sellers listed on my harsha'ah, again, all the people who gave me the power of attorney, have also authorized me to sell their chametz, which was not in their possession at the time they authorized me to act as their agent in the sale, and have personally guaranteed me that this is their intention. Because this is what happened. What if somebody during Pesach, somebody who gave me the permission receives a gift that contains chametz, right? It becomes yours automatically. They didn't know that they were going to receive it, but it becomes yours. I also hereby sell to the aforementioned buyer chametz, which was not in the seller's possession at the time they gave me the harshah, but now is in their possession, right? And should there come into the seller's possession from the day and hour listed below any form of chametz, they hereby sever all connections with the chametz, rendering it ownerless, and they do not wish to have any right or acquisition of such chametz, even after it comes into their possession. And these sellers rent to the aforementioned buyer all the places where such chametz is brought in from transport from the hour listed below until the 23rd day of Nisan of this year. And the buyer will acquire this chametz and do with it as he pleases. I have one more page. Regarding the containers in which there is chametz, if they are containers which require no tevilah, immersion in the mikvah, when purchased from a non-Jew, they are hereby sold to the aforementioned buyer by dint of the acquisition of the aforementioned property, as they will be assessed by 3 experts in assessment, as stated above. If the containers, for example, metal or glass containers, which require tevilah, immersion, when purchased from a non-Jew, I do not sell them to the buyer, rather I loan them to the buyer until the buyer removes the chametz from them. It's what I explained before, the chametz what is stuck inside this pots and pans. I have also transferred ownership of all the chametz and the places mentioned at the aforementioned buyer by virtue of the delivery of this bill of sale now in his possession as proof of that transfer of ownership. Okay? It has also been explicitly stipulated that if there is any error in the names of individuals of places as described in the list which I have given to the aforementioned buyer, the sale is not thereby invalidated. Because sometimes what happens is when people give me the power of attorney, they will be misspelled, or maybe they put the wrong date. We accept that is okay, and they are valid anyway. Okay? Or sometimes maybe I forgot one in my office, I don't have it here with me. So, yeah. It is within the authority of the aforementioned buyer to carry out the sale in accordance with the law of the land in all of its details. The financial consequences which emanate from such actions are the buyer's responsibility. It has also been stipulated with the aforementioned buyer that even if this document is binding only in Jewish law, as opposed to civil law, nevertheless, this sale of chametz is valid. And should there occur any disagreement between the aforementioned buyer and the sellers, they agree to obligate themselves to litigate in the dispute according to law of Torah, as interpreted by the congregation Shari Zedek Rabbi. So basically said, before we go to court, if there is any disagreement at the end, we're going to try to solve it according to Torah law with rabbis involved. Okay? Everything herewith stated has been thoroughly prepared in the most binding manner in accordance with the teaching of our sages, may their memory be blessed, and should not be regarded as mere rhetoric or perfunctory legal form. So, witnessed on this 12th day of the month of Nisan, at approximate hour of 12 p.m. in the year 5781, corresponding to the 25th day of March in the year 2021, here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. So again, a little summary of what's going on here. Reverend Fast, the chametz is yours. You give me a down payment now. And then at the end, what happened is we are going to calculate the total value. And if you decide to take possession, physical possession of any of the chametz here, then becomes something that automatically you have to pay for it at the value that is going to be assessed at the end. And that's the way it works. So if you're okay with that, we need you to say it verbally.
I'm okay with that as a witness, and I put my name, Peter Fast, to buying the chametz from Shrei Tzedek Synagogue and all the congregants that have sent their forms into you, Rabbi Mass.
Thank you very much. So I'm now just, we will talk during the week to make another appointment so we can sit again after Pesach is over. And it's going to be a message to the congregation to let them know when that is going to happen, so they can also witness the repurchase of the chametz if we decided to do that. Okay? Do we have any questions in the chat? Because I've seen that, I don't know. Carolyn said, can someone mix still buy? I don't know what you mean with that. Okay. Judge Pollack said the star gets a gold star. Okay, so we can move. Thank you so much, Reverend Fast.
Thank you.
It's great that you were here. I wish you all the best. And looking forward to see you again soon.
Pesach Sameach.
Thank you so much. And say hello to all your family. Do you have the baby already?
Any day now. Any day.
So Mazel Tov in advance.
Thank you.
All the best.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye. So, here we are again. So Carolyn Lewis, a Christian Jewish. So everybody that is not Jewish, you don't have to sell the Chametz. But basically, the one who buys the Chametz has to be a non-Jew. That's the thing. So I decided to do this in front of the entire class, so you will have this experience. We talk about this so much that I wanted all of you to actually experience something in a practical form. So let's now continue and study a little bit specifically about Pesach, because now that we sold the Chametz, I would like to study with you a few teachings about Chametz, so you can share with your people at the Seder if you are having people at home, right? So what do we know about the Chametz? Let me bring this here. Something that I wanted to share with you, and it's very fascinating, very, very, very fascinating. And it is about the dual meaning of the Matzah. What do I mean with the dual meaning of the Matzah? There are two different messages in the Haggadah about why we eat Matzah on Pesach. I don't know if you ever noticed that. And I will read it for you from the Haggadah. Number 1 says, "This is the bread of affliction that our fathers ate in the land of Egypt." Do you remember that one? Halachma anya. Halachma anya. This bread of affliction, or the poor bread. "Whoever is hungry, let him come and eat. Whoever is in need, let him come and conduct the Seder." Right? This year we are here, next year in the land of Israel. This year we are slaves, next year we will be free people. Now, I don't know about you, but what I learned at school is that the matzah is what we ate when we left Egypt, not what we ate in Egypt. Do you follow? There is a difference. This text from the Haggadah says, "This is the bread of affliction that our fathers ate in the land of Egypt." It's almost like implying that this is the food that the slaves used to eat. But that's not what we learn, right? Mostly we said, no, this is the bread. Look at the second text of the Haggadah, second half of the slide. They said, "This matzah that we eat," for what reason? Remember the part of the Haggadah that we read, Pesach, Matzah, and Maror? And we say that we have to say the three things, Pesach, Matzah, Maror. That section said, "This matzah that we eat," for what reason? Because the dough of our fathers did not have time to become leavened before the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He, revealed Himself to them and redeemed them. Thus, it is said, they baked matzah cakes from the dough that they had brought out of Egypt, because it was not leavened. For they had been driven out of Egypt and could not delay, and they had also not prepared any other provisions. So what is it? Is it the food that they ate in Egypt, or that's the food that they ate when they left Egypt? Because if it's the same one as the Haggadah seems to imply, it doesn't make any sense. Not to me. Because the whole idea is to make a difference. You would expect that it should be all the opposite. If this is truly what they ate in Egypt, so Pesach should be celebrated with the opposite, with bread, with fluffy bread. But no, nevertheless, now that we are free, we still eat matzah? Do you have any Any idea why this is like that? Any guess? Any opinion? I would like to hear what you think about that. Why the Haggadah says that matzah is, the first time we try the matzah is not really when we left Egypt, but we also used to eat matzah in Egypt for many years. Why do you think that it is? Let's see, I will give it a minute to see if somebody wants to type something in the chat. No one. Okay. Okay. In that case, I'm going to bring to you an opinion of one rabbi, Rabbi Yitzhak Mirsky, who is talking specifically about that, the dual idea of the matzah. And he says, the dual symbolism of matzah may also be reflected in the Yachatz ritual performed just before declaring halachma aniyah. Okay, so before we read the previous text, when I said, this is the bread of affliction, blah, 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 we break the middle matzah. Dividing the middle matzah into two parts is a concrete demonstration of the dual themes of slavery and liberation which matzah symbolizes. The piece remaining on the table is the bread of affliction, upon which we begin telling the story. The second half, reserved for the afikoman, symbolizes the dimension of redemption. Now, Shelley, you said I was taught that they were in such hurry to leave that the bread didn't have time to rise. It became matzah. Yeah, I know, that's what the Haggadah said, but he also said that that's what they used to eat before. So what's the big deal? It's exactly the same, what they used to eat when they were slaves. But you see, that I don't think this is such an uncommon thing in life, where the same thing can have two different connotations. Think about many things in life. Well, we always talk about electricity or atomic energy, for example, right? Could be something positive, could be something negative, depends how you use it. The same thing with our urges. Could be good, could be bad, depends how you channel that. But this is one aspect where we could have the same thing with two different outcomes. But for physical things like matzah, for example, yeah, it could be the same thing, but for different reasons. So it will have a different meaning to you. It's not the same of having to eat this matzah because that was the only thing your bosses are feeding you. The Pharaoh was feeding them, right? That because now it's a small price they have to pay to be free. Even though it's the same matzah, I can guarantee you it tasted differently. It tasted differently because the second time when they left Egypt, having to eat matzah so they can get out of Egypt as fast as possible, understanding that it was a small price they have to pay, is a sign of maturity. A mature person is able to shuffle their priorities and to understand what is more important. So what is more important here, to have a gourmet meal or being free? And they said, being free, even though I have to eat that matzah for a little longer. And even though it's the same matzah, tasted differently. Tasted differently. So that's and how that the same symbol became all of a sudden something positive for the Jewish people, became the symbol of freedom. If I might, it's too bad that Reverend Fast left the call, because there is something that I spoke once with a priest, that he was saying, for example, the symbol of Christianity, the cross, that eventually it used to be a torture device to kill people, but then all of a sudden it became a symbol of hope for so many Christians. But it's the same thing, right? So this is interesting how something that used to symbolize slavery in Pesach now all of a sudden symbolizes freedom. It's not so uncommon in life and in history that something like that happens. In those days, yeast wasn't added. It's more like sourdough bread. They created, yeah. In fact, some people they believe that the original matzah wasn't hard at all. It was just in these days. And Shelley, I think you sent me the article a long time ago that there are some companies that they are making the original matzah. That is, they call it soft matzah. That is still matzah, but it's not hard. They have a different way of making them, because I doubt back in the day they have the machine to make the kind of matzah that we eat today. Even if you think the matzah shmura, there is no need to make it that thin, to make it like a cracker. Really, there is no need. There is no need. But that's the way it's traditional, so that's the way we do it. Let's read another commentary by Seforno. Both the matzah eaten in slavery and the matzah baked just before leaving Egypt were the result of external pressure. Interesting what he says. Throughout their period of enslavement, the Jews were denied the luxury of the extra few minutes necessary to bake leavened bread. To them, matzah became a daily symbol of their lowly status as slaves. In facilitating their release from slavery, Hashem sought to imbue this same symbol with a positive association. He therefore staged the hasty circumstances associated with the redemption from Egypt. In this way, the Exodus transformed the experience of exile along with its main symbol, matzah, into a message of joy and hope. What an amazing thing. I was thinking in general, right? To be able to do that in life. Because there are many things in life that they upset us. Sometimes we have to go through difficult situations, through challenges. And then maybe eventually we overcome them. But what an amazing lesson that we can take from Pesach. If we can still keep those, you don't have to try to eliminate those bad experiences, but use them as a catalyst to create something positive. To find the blessing within whatever happened, and to realize that now you're a different person. And whatever happened, all of a sudden you realize that it didn't happen to you, it happened for you. And then you look at life differently. I know it's difficult. It's difficult. But I believe that that's the message of Passover as well. Because can you imagine if you get so traumatized because of the slavery and the fact that they have to eat matzah every day, that you cannot enjoy life anymore. So somehow they learn to now look back at that matzah and make it what used to make them miserable. Now it makes them happy, because it allows them to appreciate more the freedom that they gain. And here you have, I think this is a beautiful message that we can all share in our Seders. And that's one of the ideas of this class today. To get all this as food for thought, so you can bring all these questions to our own Seders and to start a conversation with your family and with your friends. So I hope you're taking notes, and you can use this to create a meaningful Seder for you. Let's continue studying more about the matzah, because the matzah symbolizes so much. We already learned about the symbolism of freedom and slavery. All good. But is there anything else on matzah? Is there anything else that we can learn from it? And the answer is, of course. It wouldn't be a Jewish something if we only have two meanings. You know that Judaism doesn't work like that. Things usually have multiple meanings and opinions. So I would like to present with you some other opinions and concepts associated with matzah. So let's do it. Listen to this one. This is from the Talmud. It says, after concluding their prayers, Rab Hamnuna and Rabbi Alexandri will say, Master of the worlds, it is surely known that that we desire to do your will, but are prevented from doing so by the yeast in the dough. And this was a way to refer to the evil inclination in all of us. And by the subjugation to the nations. May it be your will to deliver us from their hands, so that we may again perform your statutes with a perfect heart. This is very interesting. Let's see. Let's try to understand all the things that these rabbis are trying to express here. Number one, they're talking about the evil inclination. They call it the yeast on the dough. So right away, you can understand why we eliminate the chametz. If the chametz represents the evil inclination, eliminating the chametz implies eliminating the evil inclination. At least for a while, at least for Pesach. Okay? Because they said that the evil inclination is one of the reasons why we don't become our best selves. In the language of the Talmud, this is why we don't do the will of God. But you have to understand, when you study the mitzvot, and when you study what God wants from you, what God wants from you is to become the best that you can be. That's why you are here. And the mitzvot is supposed to facilitate that, to make you better prepared to become a better person. So I said the main two reasons why we don't achieve that status is because of the yeast in the dough. We are going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And the subjugation of the nation. This is obvious. Sometimes we have so much coming from external sources that we find it really difficult to concentrate into doing what we know that we're supposed to be doing. But it's a fact. Lives happens. Challenges happens. Here it said subjugation to the nations. That means external pressure. Yes, it's easy to say, yeah, you shouldn't pay attention to the external pressure. Just do whatever you have to do. Yeah, why don't you try doing that? It's not so easy. So basically, these rabbis were praying to God. Please remove those two things so I can fulfill your will. It's a fair prayer. But it comes after the realization of these two obstacles. I will give kudos to these two rabbis that at least they are trying to find the root of their struggles, and they're asking God for help into overcoming those two struggles. The yeast, or the evil inclination, or the ego, sometimes we call it, and the external circumstances. Any comments? I want to hear from you. So, let's continue studying a little bit more about the Matzah. This time, it's going to be a commentary by the great Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. He's a rabbi, very famous rabbi. And he said, bread is designated as man's primary food. And it is therefore precisely what is required by the state that God desired for man in this world. Leaven is a natural element of bread, making it more digestible and flavorous. This also is a result of man's appropriate nature, since he must have an evil urge, a yetzer hara, and an inclination towards the physical. So basically what it's saying here, Luzzatto, is, okay, let's stop for a second. Yetzer hara, the so-called evil inclination, is not necessarily bad. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's necessary. But what happened is, eventually you need to learn how to channel it. But you need to have an inclination toward the physical, otherwise you will never do anything. You will sit in bed all day, and that's not the idea, right? The rabbi said, otherwise, without the Yetzer Hara, nobody will get married, nobody will start a business, nobody will study, nobody will do anything, because we need that urge to get us out of bed. At a particular determined time, however, Israel was required to abstain from leaven and to be nourished by matzah, which is unleavened bread. This reduced the strength of each individual's evil urge and inclination towards the physical, thus enhancing his closeness to the spiritual. So basically what God says, but what Luzzatto says here is that evil inclination is good. We need it. But once a year, on Pesach, we eat matzah to reflect on the symbolism of the Chametz as ego or evil inclination. And we can engage in this kind of conversation to talk about specifically that evil inclination, yes, is necessary, but it has to be controlled. At one point, we have to talk about it. So he will say, this is Pesach. This is what it is. We don't need to be eating matzah all year round, because hopefully people will get it in a week, the week of Pesach. Same thing with, let me give you another example. It's not necessarily connected to the matzah, but it's the concept of God, for example. God as a loving father and God as a severe king. Two aspects of God. We relate to God all year round as a loving father or parent. But on the high holidays, God is Avinu Malkeinu, our father, but our king. But it's the only time of the year that we call God a king, and we kind of tremble in front of God like somebody will tremble in front of a super powerful king. But you see, the rabbi said we do it for 10 days a year, where we concentrate more in this awe of God. Or some rabbis would call it the fear of God. Only 10 days a year is all we need to get it. That we can, you see, yeah, God is a loving parent, forgiving and giving us another chance, but God is also a king. God is also a king, right? That at one point we said enough and he will, so, but we don't need to be stuck into that every single day. We concentrated in 10 days and hopefully we will get it during those 10 days. So we concentrate in other aspects of God during the rest of the year. Same thing with the evil inclination. Hopefully we will get it during these 7 days of Pesach. So we won't make mistakes for the rest of the year. Or we won't become overwhelmed by the urges coming from the evil inclination. Once you know what it is, it's like knowing your enemy, right? Then you can strategize. But you have to get to know your enemy first. And the rabbis will say that this enemy is the ego represented by the yeast in the dough. Now, think it this way. How do you make what is the difference between matzah and bread? It's the yeast. What does the yeast do? When you make the dough, it will create gas. And then because the bread has gluten, which is, it will kind of trap that gas. The gas will try to expand, and the dough will expand with that gas trying to escape from the dough, and it will grow. Right? But without the yeast, there will be nothing puffing that dough. It will remain flat. That's the difference between bread and matzah. It's the same, except that the bread has air inside. How do you call a person with a big ego? It's full of what? Hot air, sometimes we call it, right? Or something like that. If you know exactly the phrase, type it in the chat. I would like to know exactly what is the thing. But it's so we are not that far off, because even in the English language, we have a similar concept that is related to the ego. When you are full of hot air, right? Because it's nothing. It's artificial. It's not real. Yeah, it looks great. The bread looks great, but just do it yourself. Go and put a hand and push down, and you can keep pushing until you leave it flat and simple like matzah. Okay? So it's also a teaching for all of us, don't to get fooled by appearances, because sometimes all what it is lots of air, not real substance. Yeah, and sometimes they say, yeah, but it's easier to digest the bread than matzah. Well, but life is like that. Sometimes, yes, we need a little bit of gimmicks and colors and things that they are not really necessary, but it makes it nicer. We like aesthetics and things. If you think about it, aesthetics are not really necessary, but they're nice. They indulge us a little bit, and God will say, you know what? It's good in moderation, because that's what we have during the year. On Pesach, we don't. So we understand that we can have this conversation. That should be a limit for that as well. Let's continue. Now, let's talk about matzah as a symbol of freedom, right? This rabbi says, slavery takes many forms. Not all shackles are made of iron. When slavery becomes a way of life, the slave may even become unaware of his own servitude. Oh, this is brilliant. Passover assists each Jew in unearthing his own slavery. Making poor choices and becoming dependent on desires is another form of slavery. See, everything starts with a little yeast. And then eventually that will enslave you. A heroin addict, or even a smoker, is often a slave to his body desires. Materialism, too, may be addictive. Many forces pull on a person's body and cloud the desires of the soul. If a person loses sight of what is truly meaningful, he no longer experiences true freedom. Desire enslaves as much as any drug. We like to think of Western society as free because people have the freedom to find their own fulfillment. In practice, however, few find their meaningful path of purposeful living. This indicates that slavery, in one form or another, is alive and well in the 21st century. Lots of wisdom there. And this is something that we can all talk in our tables for the Seder just by holding the matzah and understanding all the messages that they are encapsulated in that flat cracker. Can help us talk about and understand our own addictions. We all suffer from addiction from one way or another. And this is a good opportunity to start the journey of becoming free from that. It's a beautiful message that we can learn from this humble matzah. And this another message you can share on your Seder. Karen said, Manischewitz a drug? No, Manischewitz is the wine. It's not a drug. It's a very sweet wine. It's probably how to drink like 20 liters to be a little tipsy with Manischewitz. It's very, very low alcohol content and thing. So every era has its Egypt, its own brand of slavery and temptation that inhibits the development of the individual and the group. And therefore, every year, the Seder reminds us that this night is different from all other nights. Different from other nights of the year, but also different from every Seder night that has preceded it in history. For every era has its own Egypt. Beautiful. Beautiful. This is something that, it's one phrase of the Seder. Why is this night different from all other nights, right? Ma nishtana halayla ze can trigger so many good conversations on the table. Because it's true. It's true. It's the, yeah, I know the original Manishtana is talking about why is this night different from all other nights of the year, but also how is this Pesach different from previous Pesach? Because every year we struggle with different challenges. I don't have to tell you that, right? This year, I would say last year, in part, we've been struggling with challenges that we didn't have 3 years ago. So this Pesach will be different from a different reason. But we all have to be aware of that and to realize that there are ways to break free from that. And eventually we're going to leave it behind. And hopefully we're going to also be able to find a blessing in all the challenges that we've been dealing with for the last couple of years. Which is interesting because yesterday I got an interview by the Winnipeg Free Press. And it's the same person who interviewed me last year before Pesach. And we were having a phone conversation. And I say to this lady, you know what? You should copy paste whatever I told you last year because it's going to be the same. And she said, no, we cannot do that. That's not good journalism. And I said, okay, no, I'm just joking. I said, because basically we have the same challenges that we have last year. But then I said, actually, not true. Because last year, kind of, we weren't prepared. But this year, we learned from some of the mistakes of some of the things that we didn't know last year. But we can make it better and more meaningful for people. So, yeah, it's... So it is a little bit different this year. So I hope. Oh, I already past 1 o'clock. I hope you are going to be joining a Seder Saturday night and Sunday night. If you are not having a Seder with family, I encourage you to join the Shari Zedek Seder. Yeah. Shelley, you say, should we consider COVID an additional plague? Well, yeah, I guess. But I guess many families are going to talk about COVID during the reading of the 10 plagues. But yeah, that's an interesting thing. But again, we are having the Shari Zedek Seder Saturday evening at 6:15. I will be leading the Seder with my family, with my wife Ashira, my son Ronen, and my mother-in-law Tzivi. We are going to be at the Shari Zedek building doing that. And I hope we have already some people registered on Zoom because I know for the Seder some people like to see each other. So we have a Zoom alternative. So if you want that, contact the office. You will get the link so we can see each other there. But it's also going to be open for everybody, YouTube and Facebook. So that means that you can basically have your own Zoom connection with your relatives or friends, but we can still lead your Seder. That's an amazing thing. If you need a Haggadah, we have some at the Shari Zedek. Just drive by. We have a basket outside, so you can go and pick one there. But also, we have it online, and for the Seder, it's going to be on screen. So there are going to be many different options. Okay, so thank you so much for everyone for being there. So remember to subscribe to our channel, like the video. Chag Sameach, and hope to see you soon. Thank you, Rocky. Thank you so much. Oh, I forgot to announce the second Seder. It's Sunday night, same time, 6:15. I'm also going to lead that one, but it's a community Seder. It's going to be an amazing thing because every congregation provided pre-recorded videos. So I'm going to host it and talk a little bit in between, but all the parts of the Haggadah are going to be presented by different leaders of different Jewish institutions from Winnipeg. Very great thing, and it's amazing to collaborate with other synagogues and institutions like Rady or Federation of PJ Library and this way. So don't miss that one either. Thank you again. Chag Sameach. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and hope to see you soon. Bye now.